Hey, this is the Daily Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today I want to talk a little bit more about dealing with stress in projects. Alright, so today I want to talk a little bit more about what I was talking about yesterday, which was dealing with stress. So yesterday I was answering a question by Jamal about dealing with stress while coding. And I was talking about just the day-to-day stress. You know, I got a bug, I got a deadline, you know, just getting through that, and just sometimes it just helps to get away from the code and everything like that. Now, and I mentioned that doing some exercise helps from time to time, right? And then afterwards I was thinking, I should tell you about the time I have been the most stressed in a project, probably in my entire life actually. Right? It's one of my first client projects. And I'm going to tell you this, and I just want to preface this with the fact that I've learned a lot since then. So don't judge me, right? But some of you guys might be going through some of these problems, and I thought I'll share it with you, you know, I'll be transparent, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, you can just see, and you know, it was a learning experience. I mean, it was a learning experience of learning experiences. So this was like one of my first clients, and I'd worked with a few clients before this, and we did like small projects where we did, you know, working for individuals, and they were happy with everything and everything. But this was my first big client. It was like a large company. It was had a lot of exposure. This was it. This was like Overpass. I'll just be able to drop this name of this client to for future companies, and we're just going to get lots of business afterwards, right? So, and it was also, you know, I did a few projects with developers overseas. I've done a lot of projects with developers overseas before this, but this was the first time with some new people, and it was the first time where Overpass was footing the entire bill, you know, hiring, you know, a few different people. So I had like a really good designer from the Philippines. He was, I mean, very talented. I wouldn't say really good because he was not very disciplined, and a developer who seemed to be very honest at the time, right? So he'd worked on a few projects with me. He seemed to be a bit slow, but I thought fairly honest or whatever. But you know, we'll see. So basically, so I got a call from this client. I'm not gonna tell you who the client was because I never really talk about my clients. But so they had this trade show event, and they wanted a game for it. So I met with them, and we talked about different game concepts, and we settled on an idea. I sketched out some designs. They were really happy about it. I went to the designer. He sketched out some designs, and they were excellent designs. They really look good. I mean, it was just, that was, you know, what separated us from all the others, because it just looked so professional. All right, so and the developer he'd gone away, so we came up with a concept. He's gone away and started coding on some stuff, and I wasn't really checking on the code every day. It was just, you know, it wasn't demanding that I see it. It was just like, how much longer are we going to be on this? Oh, I think another couple days. I think another couple days. I think another couple days, right? And eventually, and then at some point, the designer disappeared, right? He went off the grid. So there was a guy in the Philippines. He's not the designer I'm working with now. I work with Sandy. I've been working with Sandy now for 4 years. And one of the reasons I hired her was because of this guy, right? So he went missing for like 2 weeks, right? And so everything stopped in the project. The developer was still, you know, he started saying he needed the image assets, but I hadn't seen any code from him yet. So it was getting to the point where I was really nervous, because at this point I was giving them really quick updates. How about this image? How about this image? How about this image? Everything like that. And you know, but I didn't really have any code to give them because we didn't really have anything yet, because for whatever reason. And I should have been more on top of it. You know, in the end I should have been more on top of it. So we got to the point where the event was very close. It was like a few weeks away. And this is when I started hearing the thing that no business owner ever wants to hear, is like, Eric, I just want to say that I'm a bit concerned, and we're a bit concerned over here because we haven't seen any progress on this project, right? And I tried to reassure them, I understand, we're working as hard as we can, all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, I can't even get in touch with the designer. I have no idea where he was. So I hired a new designer, and that was Sandy, and she started working on some other stuff, and she started filling in all the gaps, and all of a sudden we started to make some headway. She was going to be temporary, but in the end she's still with me 4 years later. Right? And this other designer pops up off the grid from somewhere, and they had a few changes to the images, and he completely changed them like way too far to the other side, and it became really, really difficult to do, right? And then finally the developer checks in his code, and it was like there was no way he could spend an entire month doing what he had done. I mean, there are people who are slow, and then there's just dishonest slow. Like there was, you know, even someone who had learned the language yesterday could have done better. And I can remember sitting in the front room, and and my stress levels were growing day by day by day. You know, just snapping at people and everything like that. I'm not proud of it, right? But and then I remember sitting there in the front room, like it was like a Sunday night, and I just thought, God, it's a train wreck. We got like a week to do this. Nothing's done, right? And I wanted the model to work. This was a big thing. I wanted the model to work. I didn't want to be the solo pianist anymore. I wanted to be the conductor. I wanted to be able to move above the coding side and have all that work. And I sat there and I was stressed out, was snapping at people. And once I sat down, and then I started to feel sorry for myself. I started to go, God, what was I even thinking? I don't know what's going to happen. This is, you know, I'm disappointing hundreds of people. Like all this, everybody's waiting on this thing, and it's, you know, and the event is like 2 weeks away and everything, and nothing's going to happen. You know, they're still hoping that, you know, I'll give them a build like the next day. And I thought, God, there's no, and I sat there and I just thinking, you know, what was I thinking? Who am I to do this? I'm not, you know, I'm not a project manager, I'm a developer and all this. And I just really feeling low. And then my kids, so when I say about exercise, my kids were playing around with these dumbbells that I had around the house, because I got on this thing where I thought I would work out more often at the time, you know, but I wasn't. So they were saying, hey Dad, can we play with these? And they were doing like, you know, and you know, and I was like, no, let me show you how that's done and everything. And I started doing it, and you know what, as I started just doing exercising, and I did some push-ups and all this stuff, and all of a sudden I started to feel a little bit better. And I know that sounds really corny, but I started to feel a little bit better, right? And I started to feel like, okay, take charge, right? That developer, he was gone, right? I pulled a few all-nighters, right? And I coded that entire thing, weeks, which he had 6 weeks to do. I coded it in a few days, right? I turned it around. They were, you know what, they were super happy with it, right? They probably still don't know to this day how close it was to not ever getting done. Right, we got the design assets in. They asked for a few changes. We turned those around. The nice thing about having an event to shoot for and a deadline, like I said before, is that scope creep stops at some point, because everybody's vested interest is in finishing the thing. And I finally got through with it. But that was early on, and I learned a lot from that. First of all, I will never put myself in a tight framework like that with a new developer. I always try out developers on my own projects first before I put them on anything that's client related, right? That if I find a designer that I like and that I can trust, I'm going to keep them forever. Like Sandy, like Sandy's been with me for 4 years, right? And you know, and I just won't blindly trust anyone. And I am really deadly serious about having source code control and being able to check code on a regular basis to check on progress, right? It's just these kind of things learn, and you know, it's just, I was naive at the time, but let me tell you what, that was a low point. And I get stressed all the time. Projects, we always get stressed, you get deadlines, everything, but having gone through that, everything else is easy. So my question to you is, let me know in the comments if you've had these kind of situations where you just think it's the end of the world, a train wreck. Because I remember sitting there thinking that if Armageddon's going to happen, now's going to be a good time, because then at least I don't have to get to that. At least I don't have to call them and tell them it's not going to be done, right? I was thinking that, God, maybe I could get in a car accident. That would be so lucky, right? That's really low. So let me know if you've been in a situation like that working with clients. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.